Hi guys, I'm Andy Murray from What Culture.
And I'm the inspirational Adam Cleary from What Culture. Remember, gimmick infringement is a crime.
Very nice, very smoothly done. Coming up today, we have stories on violence on AEW television.
Tony Khan gives us the inside scoop on the company behind the scenes.
Drew McIntyre shoots hard, pew pew pew, on wrestlers using social media.
Will Ospreay breaks his long-awaited silence on Seth Rollins.
And this is the news.
This is the news. With no Wilborn, unfortunately, because he's off getting married for an entire week.
A whole week.
A whole week. I don't know. I've never been married personally, so I just presume that's how long. That's how long you have to do that.
Mental that he's getting married for 7 consecutive days, but we're only invited to
one. Yeah, that is weird.
Ask questions. Anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to our first story of the day, which concerns WWE SmackDown. Now, as you're well aware, I'm sure well-informed wrestling media consumers, SmackDown is moving to the Fox network in October 4th. On a Friday night will be the first ever show, as reported by the very sexy, very handsome, very charming Adam Cleary and Adam Nicholas last week. They are looking to bring in all kinds of big league changes. Now, up to that point, big leagues amounted to some new cameras apparently, and a bunch of celebrities being there in the Staples Center. Well, WWE are now taking their own measures to go with Fox's. Apparently, according to the Barn Burner Wrestling Network, they want to get as many legends as possible onto that show to make it seem like the biggest deal they can. So, the names they have specifically mentioned so far are Brock Lesnar, Ric Flair,
two people we see semi-regularly anyway. Yep, okay.
And The Rock.
The Rock's good.
The Rock's pretty
The Rock's
decent.
good. You can see exactly how that meeting would have gone down though. Like Vince gathers all his generals, all his best friends, all those dudes in suits at Mr. Burns' house from The Simpsons. Just go, yes, boss. Gets them all around. He goes, we need a big league feel. We need to make everything feel really Hollywood. I need your best idea. We need something like get The Rock there, but way bigger than that. And then an hour later, just like third, fourth coffees, the Chinese takeaway boxes are all empty. It's like, just get The Rock then, shall we? Yeah. It's a great call though, because The Rock is not only the biggest, probably the most famous wrestler living now.
Ever.
Has he surpassed Hogan?
Oh,
his mainstream appeal means he's probably surpassed Hogan. He's the biggest living wrestler in the world, almost physically now as well, the way he works out. So yeah, that would have a big league feel. And SmackDown is The Rock show, so you know he's the most honoured guest I think you can get for that.
Quick rendition of SmackDown Hotel in the opening segment. I think it makes all the sense in the world. Who else are you going to get that's going to pop a rating like Big Dwayne? Nobody. Get him in. It makes sense. I'd love to see it happen. I just love seeing The Rock do stuff. Even Skyscraper. That film sucked, but he was great in it.
What was the one with the big gorilla?
Oh, Rampage.
Rampage
Yes. Quality. Not Jurassic Park, Jumanji as well.
Jumanji was good. Yeah, everything The Rock touches turns to gold, and I'm sure WWE will want the first episode of the new SmackDown to turn to gold. So yeah, that's a no-brainer for me.
Do it up, Vince.
He's the man Hollywood goes to when they want to bump up a franchise. And SmackDown is a big franchise. It's just logical.
He's big banter as well, isn't he?
And plus, they're going with this whole big league thing. WWE should feel like the big leagues, shouldn't it? It should feel like it's got something that other promotions cannot offer you. We've seen AEW, certainly. Even TNA to an extent. They have slick production. And visually, it's not all that different. So if they can do something, whether that's new cameras or whatever, it will feel big leagues and not like the supposed little leagues like AEW. And speaking of AEW,
transition.
Fyter Fest was this weekend. Tony Khan was in the media scrum, as they did for All Out when we were there. And he's been talking about the company behind the scenes, how they're putting things together, how they're working, and he's come up with a number of interesting quotes about the company structure, specifically about their talent acquisition techniques at the minute. As I'm sure you're all aware as well, every time a free agent or somebody's contract is coming up, we're always like, AEW contract on the cards, perhaps, and as a result they've signed some incredible talent. Obviously Moxley was a massive get for them, became the biggest story in wrestling. Omega was a huge name for them. They've added Britt Baker, they've added Ty Dillinger, Chris Jericho, everybody you could think of. Luchasaurus as well. They've gone and got them because they've got the financial clout to do it. So if you're a wrestler in WWE or you're on the independents and your contract's coming up, you're probably thinking, hey, might go to AEW, they'll just sign anybody these days. But alas, no, they will not. Tony Khan's exact words were, we're not actively out trying to sign people to fill out the roster now. I don't think we need depth across the roster. I think we have like a really deep, awesome roster and we have top stars. That sounds a bit Trumpian.
It almost does, doesn't
we
it?
have like this really deep awesome roster that's just like the best wrestler in wrestling. So it would have to be something really, really captivating. So if we're making moves in free agency, it's because we feel really strongly about the performer, which I think tells us that their summer spending sprees is over now.
Yeah.
They've padded out the roster to the kind of depth they need. They've got the big people at the top of the card. They've got up-and-coming talent in the rest of the card. They've got a couple of legends here and there. It looks like a fairly complete product now, so they're not going to go out and just get whoever they can purely to make any waves. That's good news.
The most encouraging thing about all of this is that it shows that they are quite aware that they need to avoid one of the major pitfalls of TNA and Impact Wrestling throughout that promotion's cursed existence in just hoovering up any old WWE talent in signing Junior Fatu and Aaron Rex and Orlando Jordan and all these other people and immediately pushing them as the savior, as the next big thing. That's part of the reason why Impact's legacy as an alternative, as a true alternative to WWE, was eroded. AEW are out to avoid that, and it's probably why we haven't seen the likes of Austin Aries and TJ Perkins, aside from being kind of like, scamps.
Yeah, imagine just going out and immediately getting like Aaron Rex and Cody Rhodes and Kurt Angle and everybody like that.
Ted DiBiase Jr.
That's good though. I think they've got the roster pretty much where it needs to be.
The roster is in a great spot, but they will push out the checkbook for the right free agent, as said by Mr. Khan there. And speaking of Mr. Khan, during the post-media things from Thingaroony, he was talking about violence levels on television. Now, obviously, when AEW TV kicks in October, it's going to be a TV-14. It's going to be a little bit looser, a little bit edgier than WWE and their PG rating. If you watch Fyter Fest as well, you will have seen all manner of what we in the What Culture office like to refer to as neck stuff. So we saw Cody Rhodes get beamed over the head with an unprotected chair shot that sliced the back of his head open. It was gross. It was really gross. And then we saw the main event between Jon Moxley and Joey Janela. It was a non-sanctioned match. It had all kinds of mental bumps, as you would expect from these guys. It had barbed wire boards, thumbtacks. Jon Moxley spat a thumbtack out of his goddamn mouth. Joey Janela trod all over them with his feet. It was gross. Tables, ladders, chairs, everything you can think of. Well, apparently...
Borderline deathmatch, you called it.
It was a borderline deathmatch. It really was, just not quite as gory. However, this level of violence will not be reflected on AEW television, according to my close personal friend and confidant, Sweet Tony K. He says, when asked specifically...
Sweet Tony K!
He said, no, definitely not. This was not TV, this was effectively a pay-per-view in a lot of the world, and so you can expect different rules for pay-per-view. And then he talked about whether or not they included those levels of violence as part of their pitch to TNT, and he said, we wouldn't have offered that on TNT, 100% no. So while you are going to get the odd smattering of these crazy violent hardcore matches on pay-per-view, on TV,
I'm not really surprised at this, to be honest, but at the same time I kind of am, because we did a video a while ago, another absolutely stellar work from Michael Sidgwick, I think, which promised that it looked at what AEW's appeal is going to be, and the main thing he picked out was it is going to be almost all things to all fans, because you're going to have bits of absolutely every style of wrestling in there. Whereas watch WWE, it's got a very sort of like formulaic product, which a lot of people, the sports entertainment model, it's very popular, but it is what it is, and a lot of indies go down, this is our wrestling style, this is what you expect from this company. But we've seen from AEW, there's incredible technical matches, there's high banter matches,
there's lucha,
there's lucha stuff, and they've signed Jimmy Havoc. You kind of have to do a bit of deathmatch stuff. You signed Jimmy Havoc. I was regaling him with a tale earlier on. He was in a wrestling match for Defiant. His opponent accidentally cut his hand open quite badly, so he was backstage getting that all stitched together. And Jimmy Havoc, face full of blood, physically still dripping off his chin, pulled back the curtain. Are you alright, man? That looked really bad. Are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm just getting stitched up. I was like, oh, thank God. God, I thought that looked really nasty, that. And he walked away, face still pouring with blood. So they're going to have all manner of different types of wrestling, and deathmatch is a type of wrestling.
One of the great characters of global wrestling there, Jimmy Havoc. Yeah, no, I loved the Janela Moxley match. It's right on my street, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. Using them in moderation is key. If you do them over and over again, it burns them out. It's also going to offend your sponsors and maybe younger viewers and families who want to tune in and watch the show and don't necessarily want to see thumbtacks hanging out of Joey Janela's feet. You've got to keep it clean to a certain extent. Nobody wants PG levels of homogenization. Easy for a guy like me to say, but moderation's fine.
And speaking of moderation's fine, Seth Rollins should maybe start putting his phone down a little bit more, as we saw last week. One of the biggest stories was this quote-unquote Twitter spat between the reigning WWE Universal Champion and arguably face of the current product, Seth Rollins, against arguably the most critically acclaimed wrestler in 2019, Best of the Super Juniors winner, Will Ospreay, basically Rollins. I said this in the video. Rollins was doing the right thing as the locker room leader. He was like, look, sick of us getting dragged, sick of people tweeting me, telling me they hate WWE, I hate all you nerds on the internet. And he came out in defense of the product, in defense of himself, in defense of the company, in defense of all his colleagues. It was good stuff. It was proper I am the locker room leader behavior. And then during the pay-per-view, during Stomping Grounds, there was a great match, and he doubled down. He said, look, this is what I'm talking about. One match in amongst many, some of the best wrestling you've ever seen. And if he just stopped there, it would have been absolutely fine. But he didn't stop there. He didn't stop there at all. He called cage side seats a bunch of dorks and then said that there is nobody living who can do what he does as well as he does it, as regularly as he does it, and as consistently as he does it. And Will Ospreay, a man who, can, just replied with, I'm alive.
Yep.
And again, if he just left it there, you take the L, it's fine. It's just Twitter. You can even have a bit of crap with him about it and people will be like, ooh, Ospreay.
Rematch.
Oh, that would be so cool. But no, he appeared to be at least very gotten to by the whole thing, and he started patting him on the head, calling him little buddy. He brought out his bank balance, which is just the ickiest move you can do.
Yeah, that's gross.
And it was horrible. So finally, Will Ospreay's broken his silence on all of this because, to his credit, he just basically got a t-shirt of it and then took a step back and sort of came off as, in a rare moment for Will Ospreay, came off as the better Twitter user in the exchange. And he said, when asked about it, I would just like to say as well, like, there is nothing malicious about this from me anyway. Someone assured me that he's fine, but I was just like, I saw the fans going, oh, he's a dick for saying this, and I was like, no, he's not. We're just having a bit of fun. That's how I feel anyway. I feel like it's nothing malicious. Then he goes over to put Rollins over as a performer, does the very professional thing about it, and I mean, he's won this feud,
Fair
really,
play.
hasn't he? Yeah, like it just he made his point, and then Rollins kind of had a bit of a gross take and used very obnoxious language to express it, and yeah, he's accidentally put Ospreay over as the internet's new social media darling. Yeah. It's just, I'd like them both to put this behind them now. Ospreay's got a t-shirt out of it. Rollins has got some attention from people. I don't know what he was hoping to gain. Feels like he should just move on now.
I do kind of like the idea of Rollins still sitting at home proper fizzing about this. Yeah, Will Ospreay. Yeah, bring it down. Yeah, doing that weird laugh he does that I can't recreate.
The top comment when I did the self-destruction of Seth Rollins video, the top comment on that is, oh, so it turns out Twitter game is not sexually transmitted then. Which I thought was a bit much.
Wow.
Speaking of Twitter game being sexually transmitted.
Yeah, let's talk about Drew McIntyre, who I have definitely shagged on Twitter. Obviously,
that was perfect.
He plays a villain on WWE television, and he's come out and he's spoken about wrestlers and how they use Twitter and other social media platforms during a recent appearance on Sam Roberts' Not Sam Wrestling podcast. Why would you call it Not Sam if you are Sam? Answers on the postcards, please, in the comment section. Anyway, he has basically said that while social media can be very beneficial, it allows a closer connection to fans, it allows them to see parts of your career and develop your character in ways that weren't necessarily possible before. He believes that at the same time, it can also erode a wrestler's mystique, and I think he's dead on with these comments. He says, a lot of it is what we have lost and what has changed. As much good as there is in social media, it is not making people seem as larger than life as they maybe would have in the past. And he says also, a lot of people just say things for the likes, retweets, and all the fans just keep going along with that for wrestlers they might not even like. So he's got a point there. If you're playing a villain on TV, you cannot be coming out and going, gee, I love my fans. Here's a photo of me and Johnny down the local Morrison's holding a baguette or whatever. Like, you have to show a degree of kayfabe. You just have to, otherwise it blows the whole thing to pieces.
I agree with them to an extent, certainly for WWE, because if this was any other TV show, you are playing a character, everybody who watches it only knows you for playing this character. So if you were doing Days of Our Lives, you can't have Dr. Drake Ramore using his real name on Twitter and trying to like chat up loads of lasses out of character. Not that any wrestlers do that,
Fred
obviously.
From Corey, obviously.
But just, if you're an indie wrestler, I think it's different because you don't know where, you might have, let's say, 25,000 followers, and they might all be from different promotions, fans of different things, all over the world. They don't know what characters you're playing. You might be facing one promotion, heel in another, you might be champion in one thing, a loser in another. So I think you've kind of got to use it more as a business tool when you're an indie guy. Be positive, do good community work, effectively, get people engaged wherever you can. But when you're in WWE, that's your one job. Drew Galloway's one job is playing Drew McIntyre on television. So a Drew McIntyre Twitter account should be about Drew McIntyre. Yeah,
I don't want to see him holding teddies and...
If he wants to have a separate one, that's fine.
Private one, little lock on there. Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Shall we move on?
Yes.
Keep it on the social media theme. We are going to cut to your questions. We're going to take it First of all, to Matt Domini. He asks, do you think that WWE pay-per-views could do with a shake-up? I.e., instead of Stomping Grounds, maybe a dedicated 205 Live pay-per-view, maybe a follow-up women's pay-per-view, instead of the same old things.
That would have been business suicide before the network came in, because as we know, these are 205 Live, and with all due respect, the women's pay-per-view is a niche product compared to the mass appeal of what they do for their A, B, and C level pay-per-views. But the network exists. You are supposed to cater. Table for Three is a niche product.
Yeah.
All the other stuff they put on the network is a niche product. It gets a much smaller audience than WWE want their television audience to get and the big pay-per-views to get, but you do it because it caters for more people and you do little things every now and then. We did not need Stomping Grounds. We did not need a C-level pay-per-view full of rematches from the show we've just seen. You could have done a 205 Live thing. You could have done a women's only one to allow those other stories to build, to get to something and to flourish and to feel like there's a point to all of them. They should do as many different wild ideas as they possibly can.
Yeah, I totally agree. Couldn't agree more. I think that while
diversity
is the nation, it's not a nation, it's a key. I've lost my train of thought here. I also think from like a main roster storytelling point of view, Baron Corbin doesn't need to have a pay-per-view match every month. Seth Rollins even doesn't need to have a pay-per-view match every single month on these vanilla C shows. I think that if you only had, if you cut down on those and implemented another bunch of these banter pay-per-views on the network, like a cruiserweight, a women's one, whatever the hell you want, maybe even a tag team one, King of the Ring, all kinds of stuff. Could be loads of fun. If you cut out a few of those and bring in these gimmicky ones, it would be a nice break for main roster storytelling. At the moment, they just kind of march every 4 weeks towards the same old thing, and we get loads of rematches and all kinds of other stuff. It would be really cool to see them flip that format and maybe take some of those C-level pay-per-view matches, maybe host them on Raw and SmackDown, bring up the prestige levels of those as well.
I really want a tag team pay-per-view now. Do you remember tag team wrestling?
Well, I do. It was died a slow, painful death. Anyway, we're going to move on. We should probably acknowledge the saviors of tag wrestling, of course, Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy before we do.
Thanks,
and speaking of AEW, let's kick it to BK Anthony, who says, with AEW using the time limits on their matches, do you think that is something WWE could bring back that would help its product? Hashtag this is news. Hashtag
no, because the way they put their matches for television, no, there's all the ad breaks, everything's really short. You very rarely get matches in WWE that even go over 10 minutes, especially on television.
TV, yeah.
You get the odd classic, usually on SmackDown. You do get the odd classic every now and then, and maybe it'd be good for them, but I think if you have time limits for every match,
yes,
or none, because if you do it for one or two, it's like, well, there's clearly a bit coming at the end of this which is going to involve the time limit. So no, the way they structure their TV matches is too short. You have the ad breaks in the middle as well. No. It's
a structural issue, particularly now that Vince apparently doesn't want any actual wrestling going on during commercial breaks. It essentially means that you're going to have to slap like a 10-minute time limit on matches. Now, I know that's something CMLL do for lightning matches in Mexico, but it's very much seen as a gimmick thing down there as well. They'll have like one a show. It's not like a thing that's widespread throughout the product. For WWE, the commercial breaks make it particularly problematic. Oh, I'm going to get roasted for that word.
You've got to remember as well, it's primarily an American product, and Americans cannot have games that end in ties ever.
Yeah, exactly.
So
OT, baby!
If wrestling ended in a draw, there'd be riots.
They'd be absolutely fuming. And we're going to kick it next to a legend of the channel, a true friend, Eric Vasquez, a regular contributor here on the social media side, asking, someone give the 3 faces of Foley, Dude Love, Cactus Jack, Mankind for Fire, Bush, and Bury.
We're using the same format as the podcast here, where if you fire them, that is them gone from wrestling forever.
Yes.
Then I would fire Cactus Jack.
Wow.
Because there's just too many unruly kids out there. I would stick them in a community centre to set them straight. Because as you well know from your own childhood, nothing sets you straighter than a 2x4 with a big nail in it. So I would push Dude Love, because there's not enough, you never get enough positive faces anymore, do you? Like, they're always like courageous or plucky. You never get one who's just like high banter anymore.
Like make a difference factor.
Certainly not at the top of the card. Yeah, make a difference, Foley, that'd be great. Make a wish, Foley.
There you go.
Make a wish, Dude Love, Foley. Him just chucking and jiving into the hospital.
Can you do his dance, by the way, the Dude Love?
I can, yeah, but obviously the way this is framed, nobody can see it. But rest assured, it's really, really good. Yeah. And just bury Mankind, because having him at the bottom of a card opening shows would be funny to me yourself.
My answer's nowhere near as fun, but I'm gonna fire Mankind. Man, that character has taken so many sick bumps over the years. The falls from the top of Hell in a Cell, all the chair shots against the Rock, all kinds of mad bumps and violence and so forth. I just want him to be well, man. I just want him to get better. I just want him to rest up and enjoy his retirement. Which kind of makes the guy I'm about to push Kind of ironic because it's Cactus Jack, and he too has taken all manner of bumps, but it's just my favourite face of Foley, so, you know, he's getting the push. I guess that means I'm burying Dude Love, even though I kind of like Dude Love.
I like Dude Love.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
We should go with the 3 faces of Foley for Halloween this year.
Should we do it?
Anyway, we're getting off topic.
We are getting off topic.
What's our round finally?
You've got it, mate.
I've got our round finally. Yeah, it was a big week for the media landscape here in the pro wrestling commentariati world that we inhabit, because finally the recognition from, in our opinion in this office, the 2 greatest wrestlers on the planet, the 2 most high banter, our faves, finally started following us on Twitter. Of course, I got
a follow from the legend, the monster of World of Sport Wrestling, Crater.
The one and only Phil Chambers' actual father, Crater. And meanwhile, this morning I woke to news that through the night, Natalia had followed me on Twitter because somebody sent her a picture of me wearing a t-shirt, which I love that t-shirt.
So not only have I been followed by Phil Chambers' dad, you've been followed by Phil Chambers' favorite wrestler, yes, so
that's
it. The brand is strong, the family is showing support. Thank you very much.
We're going to follow them back?
Yeah,
let's do that.
Crater and Natalia, shout out. Appreciate you. We're going to wrap things up today anyway. Thank you for joining us, folks. You can catch us on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE, which is also where you can send your Twitter questions for tomorrow's video, this afternoon's video, all the videos.
Go mad.
Once you've done that, you can follow Adam Cleary at
Adam Cleary, CLERY.
That was nice and simple. You can follow me at Andy H. Murray. The H stands for Holy Hell. I sure do hope that the video card works this time. Bye.
Bye.